based off that blind ranking, you mentioned the name Mitch Marner. And obviously that's one of the big names in free agency, the biggest name in free agency. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet on his podcast, 32 Thoughts, there was the idea, and this is what the Elliot Friedman discusses this here in the soundbite you're about to hear. There's the idea of being floated around that maybe Mitch Marner listens to some offers on July 1st. And then maybe plans a couple of visits and visits a couple teams over the next couple of days. Might not sign directly on July 1st. Well, there's a big-time question about, are teams willing to accept that kind of weight? Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, the podcast, part of Sportsnet, discussed that yesterday.
It's a great idea in theory, but in practice, teams are going to want to know that I want to know fast if he's coming, because I've got to enact my plan B if he isn't. I just think there's a lot of people who are, when the time comes, they want to see what Vegas offers. Like when you start to sit down, this is the week you sit down and start figuring out, okay, who do I think is going where? Who's going here? Who's going there? And I think there's a lot of people just wondering about, is Vegas the team to beat here?
That's the big question. All right, what does Vegas do? If Vegas is really the number one team that's going to go after Mitch Marner, and it seems everywhere there's a lot more smoke billowing up from that, Vegas has to move on from somebody. They have to move one of their current players on their roster in order to make that deal work. Now, Vegas has a couple of contracts that they have to worry about. Because not only does Vegas have to worry about clearing out a contract to potentially bring on Mitch Marner, but one of their top young defensemen is a restricted free agent, and Nicholas Hague, 26 years old. He's an RFA. Talk about a guy who played 68 games last year. More of that defensive defenseman, not going to put up a ton of points. But, again, an RFA, what do you do with him? Because he's due a contract as well. Are you going to just submit him? I can't remember if he's arbitration eligible or not. But he is actually eligible for arbitration. Now, teams might look at him and say, hey, you know what? That's totally fine. You're an RFA. We can go ahead and trade your rights to another team that might be looking to add a depth piece defenseman, because they already have 6 or 7 other defensemen under contract anyway. But Vegas has to figure that out. How are they going to clear up the cap space? But we also don't know fully what a contract for Mitch Marner might look like. Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic actually wrote over the weekend that he heard from a couple of teams that there was a little bit of speculation that maybe Mitch Marner only wants a 2-year contract. We did hear possibly, hey, he might sign like a 4-year deal and then cash in again when he's 32 years old. Well, the salary cap jumps all the way up to $113 million next year. I'm sorry, in 2 years from now. So the 27-28 season. It jumps up significantly. It's supposed to be $95.5 million this year. In a couple of years, it's supposed to be $113. That's a significant jump. So maybe he banks on, hey, I played really well for a couple of years. I'm going to be 30 years old. Cap's going to make a major jump. I can cash in for an even higher paying deal for 8 years or 7 years, whatever it might be. So there's still some questions about even what Mitch Marner is even looking for. And Elliot Friedman says there's a lot of uncertainty in what a contract will look like for Mitch Marner as well as others moving forward.
It was a couple weeks ago, I think we mentioned the rumors of a 4-year deal. I had some people say to me that's not going to happen. I had some other people say to me it could happen. There were some other reports, I guess, on the weekend that it could be a 2 or 3 year deal. One of the things that's very obvious here between the teams and the agents is now that the cap is going up, but we only know the total for 3 years. I think everybody's trying to figure out what all of this means, right? And what the next contracts are going to look like. So I don't have a great answer on that. I just think that a lot of different options are on the table.
So part of what he mentioned there, obviously, no one fully knows what Mitch Marner is going to be wanting. Maybe he does go for, hey, Give me 2 years, $13 million a year. Balls out. They can go sign another contract extension, either with the team that signs him this upcoming offseason or with someone else. Now, what are teams willing to do? Hey, if I'm going to make an investment into you financially, maybe I want more than just 2 years. Or, again, all things that have to be taken into consideration. Now, part of what future contracts might look like for teams going forward is this is where this I think impacts the Carolina Hurricanes in a couple of ways. If the new collective bargaining agreement that the Players Association and the NHL owners are discussing right now, which is set to take place into effect in 26-27, so after this upcoming year. Remember how in Jacob Slavin's contract and in Seth Jarvis's contract there was deferred money, which lowered their cap hit? Well, we've seen a couple other teams use that. I think it was Frank Vetrano's contract with the Anaheim Ducks pushed money back as a deferred payment, which lowered the cap hit for like the 3-year deal that he signed, and he's going to get paid more money down the line and potentially when he's not in a tax market like Anaheim. So you can get more money in the long term. The CBA, they might look to eliminate that whole deferred money thing. So if you're signing contracts for this upcoming year, are you putting deferred money in to potentially save money in the future? Those are all questions that general managers have to answer. So do you sign Mitch Marner to a 7-year contract? Do you ask him to take deferred money? Because that way it lowers his cap hit over the length of the contract. All things that you have to take into consideration. But if Vegas is the option for Mitch Marner, Victoria, they have to give up somebody. And this is where I think Carolina could step in and swoop in and be a team that can go after William Karlsson, who is a center, who is an ideal number 2 center. Did not put up great numbers this past season, but has plenty of great seasons in his past. He's 32 years old and can still skate relatively well. Like, those are all potential options, I think, for Carolina. I would much rather go after William Karlsson, who's 32, which I know he's got 2 years left on his contract at $5.9 million. I'd much rather have William Karlsson as opposed to Tomas Hertl. Tomas Hertl is a slow skater. We might look at Jordan Staal and say, even at his age, 36, 37 years old, hey, you know what? Doesn't quite have the burst and speed anymore, especially like he did when he was, 5 years ago. Foot speed just deteriorates as you get older. It's just a natural part of being an athlete. Tomas Hertl at a younger age, at the age of 31, is a slower skater. And the numbers back this up, is a slower skater than Jordan Staal is. Why would I invest money or assets into trading for a guy like Tomas Hertl, who has 5 years left on his contract at $6.75 million, to potentially be my number 2 center if he's going to be my slowest skater? Not the way the Carolina Hurricanes play. You can't be a slow, plodding skater like Hertl is. He just doesn't, in my eyes, doesn't fit that system. Now, there are some rumors and floating around, like, for example, Cam Robinson, who works for Elite Prospects, throughout the posted this on X earlier today. Yeah, there's some smoke out there that Carolina could be bringing in Tomas Hertl. Carolina could get a top 6 forward, and Vegas could open up cap space for Mitch Marner. He eventually said, from asking around, it does not appear Carolina has any deals in place or is closing in on anything at this time. Back to your regularly scheduled draft schedule. Like, to me, I'm okay with no Tomas Hertl. I'm okay with that. That contract, in my eyes, is not going to age well. $6.75 million for a player who doesn't skate really well, when he's not going to get faster. Just not going to get faster. Yeah, I see the size and the offensive production. I understand the allure of it, but he doesn't, in my eyes, does not fit what this system does. He doesn't skate well enough in the system, in my eyes. So I would say out. I would say out on Tomas Hertl for me.